Knock on the wall of a house in Germany. Solid, thick, it has been there since 1954 and will likely still be there in 2100. Now knock on the wall of a house in suburban Ohio. Same year built, same size. Hollow inside that wall, pine studs 2 inches wide. Pink fiberglass insulation. Vinyl outside, drywall inside. Total thickness 3.5 inches. To most of the world, this looks insane. You paid how much for a house made of wood? With hollow walls? That a wildfire reduces to ash in 40 minutes? The American answer, yes. And also, have you seen how fast we can build one? That tension is exactly what this video is about. It started with a man named George Washington Snow, who built a warehouse on the Chicago River using a method nobody had tried at scale. No heavy beams, no mortise and tenon joints, no master craftsmen, just thin standardized lumber nailed together into a lightweight skeleton. In 1833, a carpenter named Augustine Taylor used the same technique to build a church for $400. Experienced builders called it balloon framing because they said a stiff wind would blow it away like a balloon. It didn't blow away. The speed was the point. One carpenter with basic skills could frame a building in days that would have taken weeks the old way. Balloon framing is what made frontier boomtowns possible. Entire towns appeared overnight because building overnight became possible. It is what made Levittown possible in 1947. A house every 16 minutes. From the beginning, the American wood house was not about permanence, it was about speed and scale. Europe was not always a continent of brick and stone. Medieval European towns were largely wooden. Then catastrophe forced change. The Great Fire of London in 1666 burned for 4 days and destroyed around 13,200 houses and 87 churches. King Charles II's response was direct. No man shall build any house, great or small, but of brick or stone, and if it does, magistrate will put it down. The London Building Act of 1667 turned that into law, and that law was copied by British cities for the next 3 centuries. Europe had no unlimited forest either. England had been harvesting timber for shipbuilding and charcoal for centuries, and wood was expensive. Brick made from local clay was cheaper and now legally required. America had neither the catastrophe nor the scarcity. It had effectively unlimited forests, an industrial lumber supply chain, and no equivalent fire disaster to force a rethink. The choice that started as practical necessity in 1832 calcified into an entire industrial system. Sawmills, supply chains, building codes, a trained workforce, all optimized for wood. Economists call this path dependence. An early decision creates conditions that make changing courses harder with every passing decade, even when better alternatives exist. To be fair to wood, it has genuine advantages. It is cheaper to build with, roughly 10 to 20% less than equivalent concrete construction, which on a $250,000 house is real money. It performs surprisingly well in earthquakes because it flexes rather than cracks. It insulates well when properly designed. It is repairable with basic skills and hardware store materials, but the problems are getting harder to ignore. In 2018, the campfire destroyed nearly 19,000 buildings in Paradise, California. 3 homes survived. All 3 were built with insulated concrete, ICF walls, which have a fire resistance rating of up to 4 hours. Standard wood framing loses structural integrity in minutes. The 2025 Los Angeles wildfires told the same story on more expensive real estate. Hurricanes are another problem wood does not solve. after Hurricane Andrew destroyed over 125,000 homes in South Florida in 1992. Most of them wood frame. Florida mandated concrete block constructions in coastal zones. The rest of the country mostly did not follow. And then there is durability. Concrete block homes in Florida last 50 to 100 years with low maintenance. Wood rots, warps, gets termites, and requires constant vigilance. The average lifespan of a wood frame house before serious structural investment is needed is closer to 45 years. That gap never appears in the upfront cost comparison. Why it doesn't change? The American softwood lumber industry produces tens of billions of dollars in revenue annually and maintains a well-funded lobbying presence in Washington. The American Wood Council, the Softwood Lumber Board, the National Association of Home Builders all actively shape the building codes that govern residential construction. Beyond lobbying, millions of workers are trained for wood frame construction. The entire residential building supply chain is optimized for it. Shifting to masonry would require retraining a workforce, rebuilding supply chains, and absorbing a period of higher costs. Nobody with a financial stake in the current system wants to absorb that. Insurers have been pulling out of fire-prone California and Florida markets. When you can't get insurance, you can't get a mortgage. When you can't get a mortgage, the economics of wood construction in high-risk zones collapse on their own. The bottom line, America builds in wood because one investor in 1832 found a faster way to put up a building. And that single decision generated 190 years of industrial infrastructure that now makes any alternative extremely difficult to choose. Wood construction is not as dangerous as outsiders assume. For most of the country, most of the time. But it is not as safe as the industry claims. In fire zones, hurricane zones, and termite country. And those zones are expanding as the climate changes. The house that quakes at night, that you can hear your neighbor through, that would not survive a serious California wildfire. That is not some ancient American tradition. It is a product of a warehouse built on the Chicago River in 1832 and an industry that has spent 190 years making sure nothing replaces it. If you're watching outside the United States, what was your reaction the first time you saw an American wood frame construction up close? Drop it in the comments. Subscribe for a new video every day. See you in the next one.